Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand, attorney Jen Riza and her team will help you understand the latest developments, scope out risks, and find a compliant path forward in this rapidly changing field. Visit northstarlaw.com and let North Star Law Group guide you through the legal landscape with confidence.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Marcus. Hey there, guys.
Hey, good evening. Take 4.
Hey, Tanner, how you doing?
Doing well. Happy to be back in the studio. Love being here at the Dabbler Depot. It's another great week. A lot of busy stuff happened, but feeling good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, excited for the weekend. Great weather this coming Saturday, Sunday, hopefully into Monday. Hope everybody's getting ready for 420.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I was born again.
Yeah. So, guys, each of you have done a pretty cool thing since we last recorded an episode. So, Steve, you released a beverage, and Marcus, you saw the eclipse.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear a little bit more about each of these. Steve, do you want to go first? Tell us a little bit more about the release of 4 Canna, what that was like.
Yeah, about a week ago, 4 Canna launched at Modist Brewing. We had DJ Brian Angelis, and about 60 people came, and we had a great time. Listened to music, drank beverages. What I really like about 4 Canna is you can drink a couple of them and not be like overly noticing the high. And so it's a really balanced product. I really appreciate everybody who came out. Shout out to Modist. That was an awesome collaboration that we did. And then we had CannaConnect 4 all weekend. So Saturday was pretty fun. A lot of people came out. Big shout out to Stores and Bickle for the gift bags, as well as all the local vendors. Too many to name, but honestly, those gift bags were loaded.
But yeah, going home with like drinks and gummies and ice cream and just like so
lighter.
much. It's so cool stuff.
Yeah. And like Monday, was it Monday or Tuesday? Marcus, when was the eclipse?
Well, I left at midnight on Sunday. We arrived around 1 p.m. on Monday. The total eclipse happened like 30 minutes later. And I got back the next day at noon, Tuesday at noon.
Hell yeah. I mean, what an experience. What a few days. It's been a crazy ride. A lot going on in the Minnesota cannabis industry. I'm excited to talk about the news.
Yeah, I love it. We're going to be talking a little bit more about a special episode that we got coming up here. And we recorded that last Monday on the day of the eclipse. We were getting in the studio and we were looking around and we're like, wait, Marcus isn't here. And we gave him a call and it's like, hey, Marcus, how's it going? Like, oh, I'm in Missouri, man. I'm at the highest point in the entire state. And I just saw the eclipse. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. Like, that's awesome. And yeah, man, I'm just so happy that you were able to get there and make it. I remember us talking about it a couple days before, thinking like, yeah, maybe I'll get the opportunity to. And you did it. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's one of the most spectacular things I believe I ever witnessed in my life. Yeah, it was life-changing. And the energy throughout the day, especially a couple hours before and after, was just... Yeah, it was life-changing.
You could really feel something tangible, like you could feel it.
There was some shifts, some major shifts, cosmic shifts.
I have a couple of friends and coworkers that I've seen, and they all described it as being like a semi-spiritual experience. Going through this with others around you, and all of a sudden it's dark and cold, and you're just there.
The birds were very confused.
That's cool. Well, guys, truly, congrats to each of you. I mean, it's cool to see the eclipse. Like, I think that's super awesome. It's also pretty cool to release a beverage here in Minnesota. Like, that's super lit, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've never released a beverage except with Northern Lights, so I'm deeply impressed.
Hey, and the best part, guys, I brought some 4 later.
Let's go.
All right, I'm stoked to try some of that. I mean, I got to be honest, though. I actually did already try it. I went to the beverage release. My fiance said it was one of the best ginger beverages that she's had. Not just like THC, but like full stop.
Wow.
So, really excited for Marcus to be able to try it a little bit later and me to get another little sip.
Yeah, shout out to Andy Herzog, especially, and Keegan from Modist. Those two played a big role in the flavor profile. And shout out to Superior Molecular and Patrick Finnegan for the terps. There are some terps in here.
I love it. Yeah. That's so cool, man.
Nice.
Well, we've got an action-packed episode today. We've got a bunch of news we're going to be talking about in just a minute. We've also got an interview later with Jeremy Sutherland behind Crooked Beverages. Really a great conversation. Super cool to hear a little bit more about that company, the origins of it, our good old friend, Mr. Ryan Winkler, but also just a little bit more about what it was like for Jeremy to really enter that Minnesota cannabis industry.
Yeah, that was a cool interview. I'm glad we're here talking about it today because we were there while it happened. And, shout out to NativeCare. They're sponsoring the podcast now. So that's all kind of a small world day.
I know. It truly is. It's we're reminded yet again, the Minnesota cannabis industry, pretty small community comparatively. And so
quality.
Such a treat to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, our buddy Clem coming back in the studio, going to be teaching us how to make bagriers. So it's a Moroccan pancake. Super good, like falls apart in your mouth, and with a little bit of infused maple syrup on top, suddenly it's a THC infused meal.
Oh man, those were some fun episodes to record with cooking with Clem.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah,
we can continue.
Yeah, well, and it's so cool seeing like all the different directions you go in. So last Thursday we released just like a YouTube standalone clip showing you how to make chip dip with that Southwest seasoning. Super duper good. I was one of my favorite days to be behind the camera because every day you guys would take a little sample and then I would reach out and take my little piece and some really good food for sure.
Yeah, Will Johnston did a great job from Dabbler Depot. That was fun to watch. I got here a little after they recorded, but thanks again to the Dabbler Depot. We love being here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, or where would we be without them?
And we'll be right ahead of 420. So coming up this week, we'll be at the Dabbler Depot's new location on Payne Avenue in St. Paul on the east side.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more details on social media and Facebook and all that jazz.
Yeah, I was looking at a video of the space a little bit earlier today. It's coming together, and I'm excited to be able to bring people together there and, I don't know, maybe do a live podcast. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I can't wait to see it.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys, let's get to this week's news. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. First off, just like a quick heads up, if you are interested in being a cultivator for hemp here in Minnesota, so not adult use cannabis, but that hemp program, that license doesn't really go by the annual. It's not like January you're applying for that. It's around the growing season. And that growing season, that application closes April 30th. So if you want to be one of those people, to date, we have about 120 people that have applied, so a decent amount of growers, way less than in the past, but very curious to see who applies for that license and who keeps growing some high-quality hemp in Minnesota.
Yeah, I know Stephen Cornell will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, you do have to apply by April 30th. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can apply and start growing some hemp.
And I saw something about a new OCM survey that dropped this week. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the OCM is trying to get a picture about who really is going to be part of our future industry. They want to know about how many people are going to be applying for social equity applications, how many people are going to applying for licenses for micro or meso or basically every type. It's literally just a form that if you are considering applying for a license down the road, they're just trying to get a rough idea of the numbers. So they'd love for people to get that filled out. That is due by the end of this week. So April 19th, we'll also put a link to that in the show notes. So make sure you get that turned in. If you're interested in applying in the future, even just considering it, this is a good form to tell OCM really what that future industry might look like.
Cool.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And that's survey number 8, I want to say, out of all the surveys.
Oh, yeah. We filled out a lot of surveys over the past year, perhaps more than any other time in my life, but it's been fun? Question mark?
Right. Yeah. Hopefully they use that data properly.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have a job interview with the OCM on Monday. So
that's today.
That'll be interesting.
Good luck.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, shoot Marcus a text. We'll put his personal cell phone number in the show notes as well, so you can get that sent. No.
281
763-26.
There we go.
That guy who answers the phone is going to say, "No, this is not Marcus."
Incredible. Well, so some other incredible news that came out this week. The Minnesota Department of Health that has been looking into all of these shops selling low-potency hemp edible products, they have seized a decent amount of product and destroyed upwards of about $500,000 of cannabis.
Wow.
Yeah, $500,000 worth of illegal cannabis products has been seized and destroyed by the Department of Health, and that's just since they began inspections just about back in August. Really like end part of last year, they've had about 1,000 of these inspections done. So the fact that we've seen about 1,000 inspections 65% of them fail, and about $500,000 of product destroyed.
Shop owners can't be happy about that.
No.
I mean, they fucked around and found out you have to comply.
It is sort of the growing pains of the industry. You know, I think, being that retailer that has that product taken, definitely I agree with you. Probably not someone who's super thrilled about hearing that news. But I think for others in the industry that maybe weren't wanting to call themselves, maybe weren't wanting to cross that line, but were sort of waiting for regulation to catch up. Marcus, I agree with you. Probably some of these people were those who openly said, I know that this isn't legal, and I'm waiting for them to come and take it. And they did. Oh, yeah.
Regulators, mount up.
Oh, yeah. So retailers can be fined up to $10,000 per violation. We have not seen a ton of fines being issued yet. It's been mostly this correction order, mostly seizing illegal product, but moving into the future, especially when it's not your first inspection, but maybe your second or third where you're failing, I think we're going to see a lot more enforcement coming out of the Department of Health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to know how people are seeing product. Are they seeing more compliant product? Are they seeing about the same amount of compliant product? I mean, I wonder how much of an impact this is making from a cleaning up the industry perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good thought. I'd love for people to reach out, pod@mncannabiscollege.org, or honestly, drop it in the comments. Just let us know. Are you seeing more compliant products around, or as you continue to see a lot of that THCA flower, the THCV vapes, whatever?
Yeah. Have you lost out on your 5,000 milligram packages that were for sale in Cambridge?
5,000 milligrams.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what they do is they combine all the minor cannabinoids and then they bump up the more popular cannabinoids, and then they put that on the packaging as if, oh, this is the biggest, fattest gummy you've ever tried.
Macrodose.
Oh, yeah.
Macro
dosing. Well, speaking of regulation, there's been a lot of news coming out of different cities, different municipalities, looking at how they're responding to regulation generally. We've seen a decent number issue moratoriums saying we're not looking to at all have cannabis business in here. We've seen a decent number start to explore what a municipal business could look like. And guys, for the first time, we've sort of got both in the same city. I'm really excited to tell you about the city of St. Joseph. Now, St. Joseph, at their most recent city council meeting, unanimously passed a moratorium saying, we don't want cannabis business in here. But the reason that they did it is because they said they don't want a business to form, establish safe regulations within the city, start to expend capital, and suddenly have the OCM come up with new rules. So they're waiting for the state to figure it out before they do anything.
Okay.
And then at the same time, they said, you know, we really want people coming to our city, spending dollars on cannabis recreationally, medicinally, or other. I don't understand that one. But regardless, they really want people coming into the city. So they are tracking a bunch of other municipalities that are looking at opening a municipal dispensary, basically with one of the city council members saying it'd be the same as municipal liquor. So why not? An interesting duality within that city of we don't want it because they don't know the rules yet. And then when they do know the rules, it's just going to be us.
They want it.
Yeah, they want it personally.
That's bogus. I mean, they're just trying to deter anybody from opening up their own business in that town, right?
Yeah, it was a very interesting approach to see come out because I understand we passed a moratorium. I mean, I don't personally understand it, but I at least get a city council having those concerns. I understand looking at the municipality, saying maybe we should open a municipal store to try to start doing that. This seems just like a weird trying to ride the middle line when you can't really do both.
And St. Joseph, I believe, is near St. Cloud. Actually, that might be where St. John's is. I think St. Joseph. Yeah. So the St. Cloud area has a relatively not so friendly approach to cannabis. So I guess it's not surprising given where they're located in Minnesota, but it is confusing as far as what their intentions are.
Absolutely. It's fun. I don't know if that's the right word. It's been interesting watching sort of the different labs of experimentation come out. Everything from Wyzetta paying for national consultants to cities saying, we don't want anything to do with this, and the whole gamut in between.
Yeah, and at least all towns will be able to have a dispensary when the adult use market opens up. So we have that going for us, but until we get there, we're seeing all sorts of varieties of approaches.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not to minimize, because I do really have concerns about cities putting these moratoriums in place, but it's a way different conversation than Colorado a decade ago, when it was, do we want cannabis here, or will it essentially still be banned in our city? This, at no point will it be banned in these cities. We're going to continue to have stores open because there is that minimum floor that can be set by the city council. Still not great having their limitations on this, but we're never going to have the conversation of, should St. Joseph never have cannabis? It's just until January 1st of next year, they won't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Who knows what it looks like after?
I mean, it sounds just like more and more virtue signaling, because like you're banning something that's not even going to be allowed. The licenses won't even be issued by January 1st, 2025.
For sure. And as we've talked about in the past, these moratoriums, especially before January 1st, are really just going to impact social equity applicants. They're not going to impact the people that come during that later licensing process, which it looks like might pass through the legislature. But it's going to be people that are applying on that earlier side that go to a city council and they go, we're not interested.
It also slows down people's understanding of cannabis, and it just maintains the stigma.
100%.
While other places and other organizations are helping more comparatively help people understand beer and cannabis can be used almost similarly to each other. That's a tough one on the podcast. Similarly.
No, but I totally get what you're saying. We're like, St. Joseph, if you have questions, reach out. We know a lot of people that have a lot of expertise on how cannabis should be regulated on the local level, or really how cities should be looking at this and doing sort of this yes and both approach. Not really, I think, the best approach forward.
Have you ever tried to talk out of both sides of your mouth at the same time?
St. Joseph.
But not the middle. Like Prohibition Light and...
Yeah, St. Joseph, don't do this.
It sounds like Prohibition Light.
Well,
I think I shot my pants.
what a great transition of Prohibition Light, because we've got some Prohibition Light rolling through the state of Minnesota. Do you guys remember a couple weeks back when we talked about the roadside tests of the oral swabs starting to get rolled out?
Oh, yeah, where the guy was vigorously...
Oh, yeah. I'll never be able to get that video out of my head. Yes, that one. Well, those tests have rolled out across the state of Minnesota. And since that pilot launched in January, they've had 187 Minnesotans suspected of driving under the influence participate in the test. 80% of them agreed to provide the sample, which means, we've got a decent amount of samples starting to build up around the state.
The test results can't be used in court.
No, it's just for this experimentation. It's just for sort of this research around, does this test actually work? We've talked a lot about the flaws in the past, about how this test really isn't sort of the best way that we think they should be moving forward.
Right.
But there was a quote that I couldn't pass over. So, Director of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, he said, the fact that we've had 150 samples, that's really encouraging. This tells me that drug recognition experts are out there using these instruments to deal with people really well. Because if someone is under arrest, their world is kind of coming apart. But if they're still willing to step in and help us out, we really appreciate that. Marcus, how do you feel that the director really appreciates people getting arrested, submitting to a random and new experimental test?
Sounds like he's not a man of justice. That's why we call it the criminal legal system and not the criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard it referred to as the criminal injustice system.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah.
So it's they're happy that they've got all these samples and they've got these instruments, and they're like kind of pleased that people are agreeing to use them even though they don't have to.
Absolutely. We've talked about this when we first mentioned this. If you get pulled over and they say, hey, we've got this test, we'd love to run it on you, you can say no. You can just say, I'm not interested in participating in that. You cannot give them any research for their flawed study, and we can move on as a world. But alas, we've got a number of people, 43 law enforcement departments and 70 different evaluators trained on how to use this throughout the state taking these tests. And, the Department of Public Safety is pretty pleased with these results so far. It's looking like they're going to move forward with the state and say, we would like this to become a more permanent thing, perhaps with evidence that can be used in court.
But it doesn't prove impairment. It just proves that it's in your system, right?
Yeah, well, essentially, it proves that you recently consumed because it's in your mouth, allegedly. But it also, as we talked about, if you recently consumed CBD, that would be flagged under this. Also that the tests don't work super well in cold environments, which I don't know if you've ever been to Minnesota before, but sometimes it gets a little chilly here. And having a test where people could be going to jail based on the results that doesn't work half of the time in the state of Minnesota, I have questions.
Yeah, that sounds bogus. It just sounds like a way. How can we keep arresting people?
Yeah. So I'm interested to see where this continues to go. Obviously, the study is going to keep happening. It was funded by the legislature. They're going to keep rolling this out. But I will be very interested to see that report that comes out early parts of next year saying, was this effective? I think I know the results, but I'm interested to see what the state says.
Do they look out, like, how do these arrests impact the people who are arrested? Or they just don't care?
Oh, it's a Department of Public Safety. So
They're just
no,
bodies.
yeah, they're not doing that at all. They're just looking at, does this test properly prove that people consumed a narcotic or a drug or something recently? That's all that they really are looking for.
What if you smoked like 3 hours ago and you're not high, but it's in your mouth?
And I think we're leading to a lot of really great questions. Why this test might not be the most effective way to figure out if we should be arresting people for driving under the influence of a substance that, I don't know. I think we still have a lot of questions about.
Impairment is based on behavior, not what's in your system.
Are you implying that set and setting and people's individual metabolisms and bodies could perhaps impact how their body processes cannabis?
Yeah, everybody's different.
Wow, Marcus.
Some people could take 1,000 milligrams and not be affected. Some people could take 10 and have to sit down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the legislature because we did have a couple minor updates. So in the House, we did have that bill, so the OCM bill, make its way through the Health Committee. It was reviewed there. There weren't a ton of changes that were made on that. But what is very exciting is that from there, it wasn't sent to another committee, but instead sent to the reviser. Right. Now, lots of, how does a bill become a law? Well, there's a cool music video I can send you. But here in Minnesota, what happens is after it goes through all the committees, it's sent to the reviser, at least in the House. It's then going to sit there and wait for the entire floor to say, that's the bill that we want to get picked up. So essentially, in the House, this bill is ready to be put on the main calendar. We don't know when that will happen yet, but we know that at least in the House, we're sort of done with that committee carousel.
Wow.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. And really cool to see them be able to move through, honestly, relatively quickly, where it was just a couple of weeks ago that we were saying there hasn't been a single hearing. Now, at least, we still have a couple of weeks before the end of the session, and we're seeing that bill move forward and getting ready for the House.
And this is the Cannabis bill?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is the one that includes the suggestions by OCM. It also includes a couple other provisions. It includes a much stripped-down version of that caregivers provision. We see on-tap beverages be allowed. We see a reform to our medical program where it's not just that list of conditions, but anything approved by a doctor. We see a number of different changes. Well, the big one is the alignment of adult use and medical, where there's not just going to be medical shops and adult use shops, but it's sort of all a lot of big changes. We've been talking about them over the last couple of weeks, so I won't bore you guys with it. But in essence, that's what made its way to the House floor.
Okay.
The Senate has been a little bit slower, where we did have it go through the Health Committee earlier today, so we're recording on Friday. So if you're listening on Monday, last Friday, it made its way through the Public Safety Committee. They talked a lot about should cannabis be something that is a criminal offense for those under the age of 21 to possess.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But they made very clear that currently it is a petty misdemeanor. So if a minor is caught with cannabis, they can have it taken away. It is a lesser offense than getting caught with alcohol. Some, let's be honest, Republican lawmakers were looking at leveling that out, making it a much larger offense, something that has a larger fine and actual jail time. Ultimately, the committee said, no, we're not looking to recriminalize cannabis, especially for kids.
Right. Why do you want to ruin young people's lives?
Yeah.
Legislators.
Well, and there was an argument made that I just want to share here because I think it's so, I just believe in it so much. It's that it's already a crime for adults to sell cannabis to children. So we're not having them acquire it that way. Yeah. It's already against the law for kids to possess it. So if cops catch them with it, they can take it away. The only thing that they can't do is put them in prison over it. That's essentially what this would change. I think personally, if I, had a 18, 19-year-old caught with cannabis, I don't want the criminal justice system punishing them for that. I want them sent to their parents, I guess. I don't know. Definitely not something that we need people entering court, entering jail, entering whatever over possessing something that's legal.
Yeah, I have a 19-year-old, and I would be pissed off if she got, in trouble for cannabis.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
imagine like not only, hey, you're a parent now having to figure out like, oh, what do I do now? But now you're having to deal, oh, my kid potentially has a criminal record because they're a kid and they made I don't know. I just think not the way that we want to be dealing with it. So glad to see the committee didn't allow that to move forward.
Good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the Senate, it was sent to the Commerce Committee. Remember, in the House, we already got that one out of the way. It's now going to Commerce in the Senate. It's looking like that might be one of the last committees that it has to go through. We don't entirely know. And the date of that has yet to be set. But it's looking like we could see that sometime before the 16th of the month. So hopefully moving along soon here.
Ooh. Like a month before the session ends.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I like that we're not making too many crazy changes after legalizing just less than a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think in terms of looking at like the licensure program, there's definitely some changes people are figuring out how to deal with, but it's not like we're totally reforming our entire cannabis program. In terms of the criminalization, maybe we're looking at making some minor adjustments, but we're not looking at recriminalizing cannabis. So totally agree with that. All right, guys. It's been a lot of legislative talk over the past couple of weeks. Can we have a cannabis beverage?
Yeah, I need to take the edge off.
All right. So, Steve, you brought some today. I mean, I'm not even going to do my usual spiel of like, so what is this, all that? Just tell us what you brought and let's pour it out.
Should I read the back of the can?
All right. Yeah, I mean, you got to at least tell us what flavors are in it and
Yeah.
what cannabinoids are in it, because I think that's one of the things that makes it super unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I got into cannabis, I was in cold pressed juice, raw cold pressed juice. I was a part of a company. One of my favorite juices to make was apple lemon ginger. Real simple, ALG. So yellow apples, lemons, and ginger. I mean, just a little bit of ginger, just a little bit of lemons, mostly apple juice. Cool. So it's a sweet flavor paired with some tangy or sour, and a little spice. I brought that idea to Andy and Modist because I know they had done apple, I know they had done ginger, I know they had played with these flavors, but I wanted to really make it cold pressed juice or health and wellness focused, but also not just make a THC beverage or a CBD beverage. Like, I really enjoy getting my cannabinoids in a balanced, well-rounded way. Mm-hmm. And I love CBG. I've been a big fan of CBG for years. CBC was one that I really took an ear to. I talked to one of our former interviews on the podcast. I heard from Steven that CBC was really selling well. Cool. And that was all I needed to say, hey, should I put CBC in this beverage? Mm-hmm. Because there are leading minds in the cannabis beverage industry within our network, who've been on this podcast. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing was, how much is this going to cost? Is this going to be really expensive? And that's why I left CBN out. At the end of the day, I didn't think CBN needed to be in this beverage because, I mean, as much as I enjoy CBN and I like having it apart, 0.5 milligrams of CBN is not going to make or break your experience.
For sure.
And, we could talk a lot about that. But basically, the other big thing was we were coming up on CannaConnect 4. And that was going to be like my last big event for a while. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, how cool would it be to pair a beverage with CannaConnect? And it dawned on me, well, what if we put 4 cannabinoids in a beverage and we call it 4 Canna and we threw it ahead of CannaConnect and it would be 4 Canna, 4 CannaConnect.
That's so cool, man.
It's literally 4 CannaConnect. So if you're a fan of CannaConnect, you're going to be a fan of this beverage. It's balanced. It's fun. I can drink 2 or 3 of these, whereas with Northern Lights, I would drink 1 and feel pretty good, maybe 2, and I'd be really enjoying myself. This one you can really sesh. Pick up a 4-pack. You may enjoy it all. Let's try it.
I dig it, man. Yeah, I love that blend of cannabinoids. Thinking about if I wanted a seltzer that maybe wasn't that end of the day kind of seltzer, but maybe something more of I'm going to sit around. Maybe I want to have a creative brainstorming session, future podcast ideas. Maybe I'm going to be sitting down listening to a band at a local venue. I really truly think that's a pretty cool blend for that.
Yeah, for as much as I talk and network, I was like, man, I want to make something for me. And you really inspired me to do it. So I want to say thanks.
Well, truly, man, congrats. Let's crack it open. Marcus has given us the look of he wants to try it. Oh, yeah. Love that.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, I love the color on that. That's super cool.
ALG, apple, lemon, ginger.
That's right. For Canna.
THC, CBD, CBC, and CBG.
CBG.
How about that?
Well, and tying it to our last story, this is a blend of cannabinoids that might not have been allowed under House File 100, but under the reform bill would absolutely be allowed moving in the future. And thankfully,
Cheers.
cheers.
Air cheers.
Wow. Oh, that's really good. You get like that spiciness of ginger on that. Like,
Comes in and attacks the tongue,
yeah.
but doesn't overpower it. The tongue fights back. You swallow it, you enjoy it, and there's a little bit of terpene. I don't think there's as much terpene as the Northern Lights beverage, but they are in there, and the terpenes that are in there are, I'll read them off for you, beta-caryophyllene, myrcene, limonene, and terpinolene.
Cool, man. Well, I will say, yeah, Northern Lights had a bit more terpenes, but those terpenes were all grown and processed here in Minnesota, which I think is pretty cool. I'm glad we were able to work with people to bring that Northern Lights blend into the state, but
Yeah.
that tastes Minnesota.
This one was special, and I'll say For Canna also stands for like being in this industry for 4 years and developing relationships. So I was able to pack terpenes and cannabinoids into a product that you can still buy for a 4-pack at a relatively normal price. So a lot of cannabinoids, a lot of terpenes, not too many, but I really worked hard to develop this with the relationships that I have.
That's so cool, man. Marcus, what are your thoughts on it?
Sophistafunk.
Sophistafunk. Oh, all right. That's a new one. That's a new one. Yeah, I totally agree with that, though, where it has like a nice sort of like sweet flavor. It feels like that sophisticated beverage, but also, I'll be honest, it's not boring. I think some of those sophisticated beverages are just like, yeah, that tastes like strawberry basil. Cool.
Right.
That tastes good.
It's not boring, like CannaConnect.
I have to say, I'm a ginger junkie, and I like the zzz,
Yeah.
but I often hear people say they can't handle the zzz,
Right.
but I'm still satisfied by the zzz, and I think it's accessible to those who can't handle the zzz.
Marcus is absolutely right.
Yeah.
It could
So
bite a little harder for the
smooth.
big ginger, but we wanted to not overwhelm people. And at the end of the day, beverages are meant to be, purchased over and over and over again. So stop by Dabbler Depot or any of your local retailers, and you can find For Canna rolling out all month long.
It's like a gentle kiss with a gentle nibble on your earlobe.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcus.
I love it. Well, so if someone has a cannabis retailer, maybe they have a storefront, they're looking to sell products, is there someone you'd send them to get some For Canna for their store?
There's only one guy I would send you to. A guy I've known for a long time. Known him since 2000. His name is Sam Milstein, and he can provide you with as many cannabinoids as you'd like.
Sweet. Well, we'll put a link to his Instagram in here as well, because definitely something we want people to connect with.
Yeah, shout out to Milstagram. If you need wholesale on the For Canna beverage, Sam's your guy.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, we've got that interview with Jeremy Sutherland.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Tanner.
Hey, Steve, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about planning for our next event, and we've had a lot of miscommunication. I want to make sure we're on the same page. We're planning a bubble bath event.
Not a bubble bath event, a bubble hash event.
Steve, that makes so much more sense. My brain went to bubble bath.
It's relatively new.
Okay.
Like, I think last 20 years, people have been doing more bubble hash. It's a really
Wait. Save it for the class.
Okay.
So I can get my ticket today at mncannabiscollege.org/hash.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, all right, yeah. That's what it says in the flyer.
Hash,
All right,
hash.
/hash.
And it's not bath. I mean, there is a shower at the Wilderness, but we're not going to use it.
Oh, all right. All right, and we're back. We're sitting here in the studio today with Jeremy Sutherland. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much for coming in today. We're really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit more about Crooked Beverage here in Minnesota, a little bit more about some of the stuff that you guys are doing. But first off, just give us a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, some of the stuff you've done prior to this, Hybrid Nation. Sort of tell me a little bit more about that background.
How far back are we going?
Oh, as far back as you want to go. I mean, we ask people sometimes, like, what's your history with cannabis? And they're like, well, when I was 14 years old. So as far back as you want.
I mean, born in Minnesota, grew up in Apple Valley, went to a couple different high schools, went to Holy Angels and St. Bernard's in St. Paul, went to Carleton College down in Northfield, and after college went and pursued some professional basketball overseas, jumped around from France, a couple different cities in France, Spain, and last little spurt in Mexico.
Very cool. Okay, awesome. So definitely more of a global perspective than I think more of our guests have generally. Were you not to like ever put you on the spot, but were you a cannabis consumer as you were traveling around the world, or what sort of was your relationship with cannabis at the time?
So I was really locked into sports as a kid, right? I had NBA dreams and all of that. And at that time, the stigma was, let's not get into drugs and alcohol, right? So I was occupied in my basketball career, and it wasn't actually until I got to Carleton when I'll never forget this. I stumbled into a dorm room, like holding a bottle of Grey Goose or something. One of my homies, Frank, he was sitting there, and I was like, "Come on, Frank, come drink with us." And he's like, "Dude, like, no, I don't drink." And Frank's had like a pile of weed on his desk and a pipe. I'm like, "Dude, you're about to do drugs, Frank," you know? And Frank sat me down, and he went over the cannabinoids and all of the, you know, how poisonous alcohol is, and supplementary that CBD and THC. I mean, we nerded out in a serious way, and I was smoking weed very shortly after that.
I love it. Well, Frank, friend of the podcast, nice shout out. That's great.
Yeah, no, Frank is the real deal. So thank you, Frank.
The interesting thing is, you know, I've heard from people who were in the NBA or NFL, and like a conservative estimate would say like 2/3 of them smoke.
I'd say that's super conservative.
Yeah, probably like 80% or more.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I was curious to hear a little bit more about that start of Crooked Beverage, because I think there's a lot of brands in Minnesota that we maybe know about today, but I can distinctly remember when your brand was announced, when sort of that rollout first started. And I'm curious to hear a little bit more about sort of what brought that all together. Tell us a little bit more about the sort of the early days of Crooked Beverage and sort of what brought those people together.
Yeah, very dynamic group of people who were all kind of 1 degree away from each other. I got a phone call, and I was like, "Hey, we want to do this thing," and you know,
Who made the call?
I got on a conference call with a former partner and Ryan Winkler,
For sure.
and they kind of broke down their the concept and what they were thinking, and had heard from several different parties that I'd be a good potential startup partner to execute on some of the stuff we wanted to do. So I remember scheduling that call for 7 a.m. I was like, all right, let's get this call. Let's knock it out. It was 7 a.m. Central Time for them. So I remember pacing around my living room at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, taking this call about potential cannabis
So
drink.
you're on the West Coast.
I was in Seattle at the time.
Okay.
And so I was like, yeah, 7's cool. 7 was not cool.
I know. Let's not schedule meetings before 11 a.m.
Yeah. So no, the call went really well. And we were able to, you know, move quickly. I had a great relationship with former Carleton, some Carleton alum over at Sociable Cider, Jim and Wade.
For sure.
So that was my first phone call after a couple more phone calls with those guys to see what we wanted to do. And Wade was like, yeah, like, you know, let's do something. So that we kind of started the process there.
What's your like entrepreneurial background now? Like, why did they call you?
Like selling stuffed animals at garage sales when I was like 12.
Oh, fuck it.
That's probably not what they called me, but that's definitely like I definitely have one of those backgrounds where I was, I'm just an entrepreneur, kind of hustler and I've been doing that ever since. I've got a painting company, and it was my clothing brand. I manufacture for a handful of other brands and influencers and stuff like that. So, but I think it was just connecting with the community. It was a networking thing, and how are we going to leverage relationships and to build a brand fast and without any money.
Mm-hmm. So having lived in California and Washington State, how would you describe the Minnesota cannabis market compared to the West Coast states that have been further along in the legalization journey?
I don't think it's specific to cannabis. It's the same way I describe the difference between Minnesota and in California or any other of these states. We have a unique vibe in Minnesota, and I think that translates the exact same way through the cannabis industry. And it's something, we are a major city, right? Mm-hmm. And we rally around, when we get opportunities to be on the big stage with our cannabis rollout, put us on that stage. There was a lot of eyes on this cannabis rollout. I think people like yourselves did a really good job of grabbing onto that and making it, something of substance, and, creating community, like creating the culture, and then continuing to build and, these platforms so that we can, do our thing in a serious way.
We're here and we're from here, so we understand the Minnesota vibe, but how would you describe it to people on the West Coast? What makes us distinct? What's different about the Minnesota energy?
Well, there's a couple things, right? So it's new and exciting, right? So we know that. I was in Denver when they went full rec. I remembered, the Wiz Khalifa concert in the park, all of that. It's a time thing, right? So you go through this real high spike, and then it kind of fluctuates, and then it evens out, right? And so I feel like the excitement may be a little more sustained in Minnesota. Maybe it's because it took us so long. It's been sitting on that edge for so long, right? And so, but I think people always do the Minnesota nice, passive-aggressive thing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that might exist a little bit. We're not as aggressive as on the East. Is it like in New York, right? Like, it's not as aggressive, but I think there's genuine happiness and like willingness to connect and collaborate. And again, I think you guys play an important role in that too, of like creating something where it's like, hey, this is abundance mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Like, you have shown like no huge bias towards any brand or any individual or entity. Like, you guys are just maintaining this. No, we're just a space, and everybody can exist here, and everybody can, ultimately be successful in whatever that looks like to each brand. And so I think there's a opportunity and like a feeling of openness that you don't. It's a little more cutthroat, right, on the West Coast.
Totally.
On the coast. And
I can totally get that.
Yeah, and so some of that passive-aggressive cutthroat exists here, right? But
we're nice until we're not.
Until you're not, right? So that exists. But that exists in business, right? It is business at the end of the day for, a lot of folks. So, but yeah, I think it's chill. It's community.
Yeah, that's
but what's the concept of crooked beverage? I mean, like, what does crooked mean? Because like when people hear that Ryan Winkler was involved and they think of politics, they're thinking crooked is not a good thing.
Is that what they think?
I think so. I heard some rumors like crooked. Like, is this corrupt? Is this like, what is that? What is the brand about? What does it mean?
Yeah. So,
and I'm not judging. I'm just curious.
I think, it's interesting, right? So let me go to Hybrid Nation quick, right? So what does Hybrid Nation mean? Hybrid Nation was, hybrid is the adjective describing the nation, right? So it's a hybrid. Look at us right here, right? This is diversity. This is it was really about my life, right? And so, but I am I'm half black, I'm a quarter Japanese and quarter Norwegian. So I like to identify as a hybrid.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of mixed people, taking that name and saying, I'm a hybrid, right? So
I feel that.
And so I'll go back to Crooked. So the people who are, involved in the political scene, they were able to grab that and say, okay, yeah, Crooked, I get it, right? And it's I'm working with a politician. 50% of the people are not going to like this guy. That's just kind of how it goes.
Probably
right?
more than that.
Right. I don't know. 51%. Wait, was it 51%? Right. And so, I think Crooked is more of it's the crooked road. It's the crooked path. Like it's not A to B, right? And so everybody has their crooked journey and crooked story to tell. So I think with cannabis, THC infused beverages, breaking down those stigmas of whether you're a wine drinker or a soccer mom who wants to have a little THC beverage. It's like, well, it's just part of the road.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. And I can think of like when the brand was first announced, and I think today THC beverages are just so like accepted as part of Minnesota's cannabis industry, but it wasn't for a minute. And this was sort of it's the beverage you might go to the brewery and buy, but it's slightly crooked. It's a little bit different. And so I think, I like that there's so many ways that you can read that, either through that political lens, either through the beverage itself or through any others. That's pretty neat.
Right. You were sober until you drank the crooked, and then you started walking crooked.
It's a little
So
crooked.
if you want to say let's get crooked, right?
Yeah.
So like you can own that.
Yeah.
Love it.
What do your consumers say about the name?
Wow. Hi, Steve. Well, so we just rolled out, started our national rollout. So I would say, do our consumers look at Crooked in Texas and think of Ryan Winkler? Probably not.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
Not at all.
Well, and I would venture probably most of the cannabis industry, maybe like the people doing the business might, but I think 99% of the consumers aren't going to look at that product and go, oh, the former speaker of that. No, they're looking at that and going, it's a cannabis beverage, 3 milligram serving, sort of looking at the flavor and profile.
No, it's interesting, right? So, and you think about names because we've gone through tons of exercises and, like branding is this $1 billion like industry marketing branding, right? And so you just look at names, right? Like Google, like what's a Google, right? And
It's a deep dive internet search.
yeah, right. But it's like, what's an Amazon, right? And so when it comes to the name, I think it's less important the name and more of the feeling you get when you touch the can or see the packaging, pick up the box, right? And so I think those are the things that we've been pretty successful on as far as just our brand appeal.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my question was, like not necessarily what's the meaning of the name Crooked, which most people are not into politics. They don't want to even talk about it, let alone begin to understand it. But like I'm trying to understand all these brands, like what is your brand identity? Like what are your values? Like you have this hat that says in diversity we trust. And you're talking about hybrid nation, which that resonates deeply with me. I love that. So I'm just trying to understand like the identity of all these brands that are in the Minnesota market. And your brand is a national brand, right?
Yeah,
But it started right here.
about 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does that feel?
It's like everything else. You start off with a problem and then you do a thing and you get more problems.
Yeah, more money, more problems.
Yeah, no, it's good though. It feels like we're doing some things right? And so it just feels good to, there's some validation in some of the stuff you do, right? And it's like it's a huge, super packed market. And so these little wins, these new accounts, it's like, okay, we're choosing you when we know there's 1,000 brands. And so to be in, and go back to the abundance thing, right? It's like, I'm in competition. Like, I don't need to be the best brand. Like, there's 20 different sodas making $1 billion, right? And it's like, we just want to be on the shelf.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Well, how have your past experiences in the apparel and entertainment industry like allowed your brand to grow faster and be more accepted faster? Has that helped? Has that experience helped?
I think there's some experience on the entrepreneur side, on the like really being in the dirt. Like we've already gone through a bunch of stuff, as a young brand in 1 year. We've, you're going to continually get to those points of like, okay, this is boom or bust time, right? And then you get to the next level and like, okay, we're back to boom or bust again. And like that happens. And so I think just to be able to try to weather that, and like from a team standpoint too, working with other people, and then, sure, there's some relationships nationally that I've been able to
Leverage.
leverage. But yeah, there's a lot of just plug and play where like this THC beverage will add value to certain people's venues or parties, or there's partnerships, sponsorships that that we'll be able to call on.
I heard you have a celebrity brother. Is that right?
I finally had to start calling him a celebrity. He's won enough.
Yeah, that
TV
must be
shows.
awkward as a sibling.
Well, no, it's just like the younger brother. Like he's only 3 years older, right? So it's like it was the younger brother battle.
Okay.
And
Are
so,
you the oldest?
No, he's the oldest.
Oh, he's
and
the
so,
oldest.
But like
Okay.
I was the little brother who wanted to be the cool brother.
Okay.
Do you want to use this opportunity and just like bring him down a peg? Just like say something really insulting? Or, no, just kidding.
I can't anymore. Like I can't. Like I gave that up. I remember when we were. It was his Iron Chef when he won Iron Chef, and so there was a watch party at his restaurant for Iron Chef, and I remember being in there and I was just watching him, and then he won, and I was like, damn, he's for sure the cool brother now. It's over.
Yeah, that was a big moment for him.
That was big. Yeah. So, and no, he has a classic chef story. He's been in the kitchen, been with the fire, making $0 for a really long time, long days, hungover morning, like all the chef stuff. And then for him to like do that thing, right? And similar to like the business concept, like, okay, you do a thing, but you have to like keep doing more things. You won Iron Chef, but okay.
Can't sit on that.
It just, now you just started. So I think he's just done a really good job of he's just doing his thing, man. He's a special dude.
Has he been very supportive and influential in your entrepreneurial journey?
Big time. Yeah. I mean, I can't walk onto an airplane without a flight attendant or somebody like saying something about my hat, or literally watching the Food Network and they're like, is this you? Like, so yeah, so it's been cool. So it's definitely, he's super supportive of the brand and everything that I do, obviously, and however he can help.
That's
Cool.
sad.
So tell us a little bit more about the thought that went into the product itself. I think one thing that really separates Crooked from some of the other beverages on the shelf is that you guys really settled on that 3 milligram per serving. I think you see a lot of people that are really pushing to either that full 10, saying this is what we're allowed to do, so we might as well do it, or sort of settling more around like that 5 point. What was the thought behind 3? And tell us a little bit more about like what went into the creation of those beverages.
On the dosage side, prior to taking the first sip of our sample product, I hadn't had a beverage since I was living in Denver when they went full adult use, and I had a small can of what appeared to be a small dosage of THC, and it was like 200 milligrams, and then
Okay.
I was like, I'll just have half, and so that was the last of my edible experience, literally until the day I tried. All right, so I was already like, okay, low dose market. Yeah, this sounds good. I can get back on this. But I think what I was excited about, what we were all excited about and still excited about, is the 3 milligram consumer. Like I really think that the consumer who wants to try or start trying 3 milligrams, or who settles on 3 milligrams, those are probably going to be the ones that's going to take a little more activation energy to get them to market, right? Those may be the people, the boomers who used to smoke weed when they were, 14 and then stopped because of kids, stigma, work. My mom is that person, right? She was a flight attendant for 46 years, right?
Shout out to her.
Come on, Mom. So she smoked weed when she was in middle school. I don't know, maybe high school. Middle school, Mom, that would be crazy. Anyway, she smoked weed when she was a kid, stopped cold turkey when she was 18 years old and got a job with Northwest. And, now, and she's also a rule follower. Like, she's not breaking the rule. Like, her job was to make sure all the rules were followed so nobody got hurt, right? For 46 years. So,
Raise your seat.
right. Yeah.
Checking for the seat.
Check all that, right? She had a checklist and she followed the rules. And as soon as it was legal, she was back on. And so now that's just like a cool, like, that's cool, edgy, fun. That's her getting to like live again and experience, and so there's some nostalgia behind it. But I think that's a big, part of the,
It allows people like that to get a little crooked.
Without getting bent.
Are you gonna invoice me after this?
Say less.
So yeah, I think that's a cool part of the market that I'm excited about.
Very cool.
Has Ryan Winkler consumed any cannabis?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because I remember there was a point.
I don't even know if I can say that. Yeah, I can say that.
It's legal,
It's
right?
legal.
Yes, yeah, we can say that.
Is it legal?
Yeah.
But I remember for a long time he was like, I've never tried cannabis.
Yeah.
And it was like him and Melissa Hartman, they claimed to be the only members in the legislature who never tried cannabis. I was like, this is interesting.
You know what? He's a 3 milligram, like he's in that 3 milligram market, right?
Yeah.
So like,
No, I respect it. Because
Yeah,
I'm
so-
a lightweight with the edibles.
yeah.
I
So
mean, I'll
like, I
smoke
think
you
that's
under the table,
he's a
but-
perfect example, right? He's a 3 milligram guy for sure.
We're really excited to announce a new segment on our show, which is called Getting Stoned with Ryan Winkler. We're just going to all hang out with... No, just kidding.
I think I got put a crooked banner up, and I think we can figure it out.
Perfect. All right, there we go.
Just get a bonfire and bring some mushrooms and just
You just
Go
turn
crazy.
it up.
There we go. There we go.
hey. So tell us a little bit more about your working relationship with Ryan Winkler, because you said some things off air that I think that our listeners, our viewers need to hear. Because it sounds like he's been very equity focused
Yeah, for sure.
in real life outside of the legislature.
Outside of, okay, sure. No, I mean, he just from like the inception story of the phone call that I got, when it came to putting this thing together, he called me separately, and said, look, like, I'm not starting this company with 3 old rich white dudes. Like, that's not what I'm going to do when I focus, when I put so much work and focus and looking at the equity piece of the bill and all of it. He said, it's not something I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And so, I said, well, that dude's a good salesman. Like, that sounds good.
At 7 a.m.?
Yeah, 5 a.m.
5 a.m., my bad.
Yeah.
West Coast time.
Yeah, sounds good, but how is he gonna walk that walk moving forward as we start, bringing people in and stuff like that. And we did a small family and friends raise, and my founding partners have great networks with some wealthy people, and
Commas.
yeah, they got some commas, and it could have potentially been a really easy thing for them to make a phone call and get it filled. And I presented to Ryan. I said, look, like, I don't have one friend that I can call that's going to give us $1 million, but I got a whole bunch of friends with $25,000 or $50,000. And so I would like a little precedence at the cap table to bring on my people and keep this thing diverse. And Ryan was
in diversity we trust.
Yeah, man. And he was he was 100% on board with that and like championed that with my team. Not that anybody else on my team was opposed to it, but that was focusing in it, and we did it. And so hopefully we're gonna make my people some money.
That's what's up. So yeah, I just didn't want to put it out there like Ryan Winkler is a villain.
No, it's crazy because people ask me, my friends who aren't like, they just ask me what my team and who's who, and I just always describe. I didn't pay attention to politics, but I was out of the country. I've been living in California. Like, Ryan Winkler didn't mean much to me, you know? And so I got friends who asked me what it's like working with him and whatnot, and I said, he's like a character out of a movie. Like he's a Harvard grad politician attorney. Like he's like out of a TV series, and he's just real. He does what he says, and you know, he's a good dude. From everything that I've experienced with him, you know, and we've gone through some shit with our founding members and stuff like that, and like he's been the most up and up dude on the team.
Yeah, we couldn't afford to not record that.
Yeah. So, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you said offline, like he's always checking to make sure you're good.
Yeah, no, he definitely, he looks out for me. We have conversations often that it makes you feel good, so.
Yeah, and like the Minnesota Cannabis College, we exist to, you know, advocate for equity, to create opportunities for people who don't have a bunch of commas, you know, who don't have a depth of, you know, a network that can just fund whatever they want to do. So I appreciate that you're bringing your people to the table and creating opportunities for people like us. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Well, truly, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really exciting to be able to hear a little bit more about your background, hearing a little bit more about Crooked Beverage, hearing a little bit more about what separates you guys from some of those other products on the shelf. Just sort of wrapping up today, for people that want to hear a little bit more about your product, maybe try it, where would you recommend that they go to learn a little bit more about it?
CrookedBeverage.com, Instagram at Crooked Beverage. We're doing tastings all over the city, liquor store near you.
Sweet.
I got one more question for Jeremy.
Ooh, ask away.
Jeremy, you're a big golfer.
I golf.
You golf a lot.
I golf.
How does the golf community take to your product, and what are your hopes for the golf community to adopt cannabis as an option on the golf course?
It's a good question, but I don't think it's any different than every cannabis community where there's a prohibition or a stigma. Everyone fucking smokes weed on the golf course.
That's right. They do, right?
That's right. And so it's the exact same thing. Everyone fucking smokes weed here. Can I say fucking?
Yeah.
You can say fucking damn shit, all of the things.
Okay. So
I get that, right? Gambling is illegal at Bushwick, sir, right? Like there are rules on the golf course, but people still break the rules. Do you think low-dose hemp-derived beverages is like a nice way to bring cannabis into the golf community?
Yeah, it's the perfect way, right? And so when you talk about whether you're pro or what, like you have to respect other people's space, right? And so a perfect way to get into that, respecting your space, when I get paired up with some older couple and they're out doing their date night thing and it's me and my homie, like I don't want to be in my cart doing this, you know, and you just don't, like out of respect, you just, you know, I don't want to have a joint blowing and the smoke's blowing in their face. But if I got a can and I go up, I'm like, what's up, Bill? Like shake his hand and I'm drinking this and he has his little Miller Lite, like that creates, you know, that's a good stepping stone to breaking down the stigma. Exactly. And then by hole 7, I'm like, he's like, what are you drinking? I was like, oh, this is THC. He's like, oh, really? I didn't know. Let me try one.
Right.
And now we got Bill drinking THC beverages.
That's huge.
So yeah, a great question. But I love that and like waste management this year is a really good example of that, right? So, you know, waste management, they had to stop serving alcohol at noon. At noon, they shut down the unlimited alcohol.
It's the biggest party golf tournament of the year. It's like in the Phoenix area right around the time of the Super Bowl. It's just a drunk fest.
Yeah, and well, it's turned into a serious drunk, right? And so, like, could we benefit from some THC consumption there?
Right.
Probably.
Some national distributors getting
involved. So they
stopped
the drinking at noon?
Oh,
so that means there's a lot of drinking before noon.
Oh, yeah.
God damn.
You know, gates open at 8 and, you know, it's an all-day event.
Sloppy.
They shut it down.
That's wild.
You know, is there room for it? Obviously. Like, you know. And
it's a safer choice.
Yeah, no different than any other area of stigma being upheld by the powers that be.
Yeah. We just have heard a couple times on the podcast already this year of brands wanting to break into that country club type environment in Minnesota. There's a lot of golf courses.
Yeah, there's some golf courses taking THC beverages right now.
Yeah, that's good.
Private courses too. So.
Are y'all looking to get into the adult use market?
Crooked Beverage, no.
No? Okay, just staying in the hemp-derived lane.
Yep.
I love it.
That's cool.
Well, truly, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it, Jeremy. We look forward to chatting with you again very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Marcus,
Hey, Tanner.
I have some cool news to share. We've got a new sponsor.
Nice.
Northern Lights is now brought to you by NativeCare, and we got a pretty cool package from them.
Hey, we love care packages.
Do you want to open it up with me?
I'd love to.
All right. I think it's just arriving.
Delivery from NativeCare.
That's pretty cool.
Jeepers creepers.
All right. Let's go ahead and bust this open. So, Marcus, we got to be honest. Neither of us know at all what's in here right now.
Surprise,
So
surprise.
this is going to be live on camera. Wow. Well, thank you truly to NativeCare. Thank you so much for your support. And we're excited to be bringing you along with this journey. So if you need to buy some high quality cannabis products, Marcus, do you know where you can go to get those?
Red Lake.
Yeah, you can go to NativeCare.
Yep.
Thanks, NativeCare.
Anishinaabe. Okay, no problem. And we're back. Another episode of the Northern Lights podcast. We're cooking with Clem. What are we cooking today, brother?
So today we're going to showcase off again the maple syrup, but we're going to make something called bagrir. So it's a Moroccan pancake. Ooh. So it's kind of a pancake where you actually use yeast in it. So it creates these little bubbles, and the little bubbles allow the maple syrup to like soak into the pancake, and then with every bite, the maple syrup explodes out. I think it's like, for me personally, I think these are like the best pancakes because it like showcases not only the pancake flavor itself, but also like that explosion of whatever you put on it. Traditionally, they use honey, but in this case, we're going to use maple syrup.
Nice. How did you find out about the bagrir pancake? I've never heard of it.
I found out because I was like looking up new pancake recipes for my kid. My kid loves pancakes. Shout out Clem the Fourth.
Hey.
But yeah, this kid loves pancakes. And I was like, I got to figure out new ways to put a spin on this. And then I came across bagrir. And ever since then, I think that's basically kind of the only pancakes I make that aren't from a bag. And
Nice. I found that if you add brown sugar and pancake batter, that shit is fire.
that sounds lit. So yeah, we'll start out. So I guess one thing that makes this recipe a little different is we're going to be using some amount of semolina flour. So we're going to use 1.5 cups of semolina. Let's get that in our mixing bowl.
Semolina.
Yeah, semolina is just a type of wheat flour. I guess it's Durham wheat flour. We're gonna do a little pour job.
That's some smooth looking flour.
And then we'll use 3/4 cups of regular flour.
3/4 cups.
Or 3/4 cup. Let's take this down now. And then we need 1 tablespoon of yeast. So we're going to use this instant dry yeast.
1 tablespoon of yeast.
Yep, so each one of these are 1/4 tablespoon. So we're going to throw 4 of these in here. And the yeast is what gives it that, makes it that ability for those bubbles to form.
Science.
Hell science.
Food science. Culinary arts with Dr. Dabs.
You know? All right, so we got that in there. We need a little bit of sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar. We got some cane sugar here. We need 1 teaspoon. I think I opened one side. Here we go. Oop, we want to use the small volume. We want 1 teaspoon of kosher salt.
So a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt.
Yep. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We got that non-aluminum baking powder, so we don't want Alzheimer's.
Fuck. I know most of the deodorants still have aluminum, don't they?
They do, yeah.
It's crazy. There's a lot of things in the U.S. that are banned in Europe, like that are allowed to be sold here.
That's incredible. I was looking at this, what is it, either Domino's or Pizza Hut? Like the ingredients between American Domino's and American Pizza Hut.
Oh my
it's
God.
almost scary. It's like, what are they letting them put in our food?
Yeah.
But so now we need 3 cups of water. Preferably it's lukewarm. That kind of just helps get the yeast activated and going. All the chefs out there, we apologize about our mise en place. We're doing it live today.
All the way live from the 651. Oops, I was trying to rhyme, but that didn't work. I failed.
Yeah, shout out Dabbler Depot again, Minnesota Cannabis College.
Yeah. We are the Minnesota cannabis community.
So yeah, and then we just whisk it all together.
And you are one of our Minnesota cannabis legends.
Appreciate that.
Legendary.
I was told I was the Beyonce of cannabis last time.
Yeah, you got to get that on a shirt.
I do.
The Beyonce of cannabis. I wonder what you were wearing in that photo. You got to have something sparkly. I mean, you got to wear an apron.
I almost got one on Amazon. I was like, should I dress up like a chef?
Yeah, cooking with Clem.
Next time, our next series,
Yeah.
you'll see me in a chef's uniform. All right, so I think we're pretty good and mixed up. We're going to let this sit for 30 to 45 minutes for these bubbles to form and the yeast to get activated. Just lets it kind of get going.
You said 30 to 45 minutes?
Yep. And in that meantime, we're going to, do another segment of Cooking with Clem.
Nice. Gonna have to come out with a cookbook.
A cannabis cookbook. I like
Yeah,
it.
for real. I mean, you've been making edibles for years, right?
Yeah. I think I got my start with the fruit leathers.
Yeah.
And maple cream was one of my hits. I wish I could bring maple cream back, but our law's a little too limited.
The fruit leathers are a hit, though.
Yeah, I've done a little R&D with the fruit leathers, trying to make them a Dr. Dab's product. It's a little tricky. I think if it happens, it'll be kind of in the form of a fruit roll-up.
Is it because of the shelf life you need, or what?
It's just that it's really hard to get it uniform. So I can make a uniform fruit leather, but then we ended up getting this. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like a cutter. But then it doesn't cut them all the way through, so it's really hard to get even strips.
In terms of the shape, the outlines?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it just some expensive equipment?
I guess I haven't looked into scaling it up super far.
Because I literally had some fruit strips last night from the 24-hour Cubs in Egan. Shout out to them for being the only ones open.
Yeah,
But they were tough.
Yeah. See, I want mine to be nice and juicy and fruity.
Yeah, the moisture level matters.
Yeah.
Moisture level matters. Excuse my rabbit hole rants.
But yeah, we're gonna let this sit,
I'm gonna let it
and we're gonna cook up our next dish.
Cool.
A few moments later.
So right now we started, these bagria pancakes a little early. Now we can see if we look in this bowl here, we got probably innumerable millions of tiny little bubbles in there.
Yeah, it's psychedelic right now.
It's pretty cool.
It's
So it's, we got a yeast, an organism, helping us cook today.
Shout out to science.
Shout out science.
Food science. What do you call these pancakes again?
Bagrier.
Bagrier. Man.
They're if you wanted to Google it, I would type in Moroccan pancake.
Moroccan cuisine is legendary, though, among world foods. Isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place to visit.
One thing that's a little
too.
different about these pancakes is that you don't need to flip them.
Wow.
So basically, you
That's different.
You let them form the bubbles like you would a traditional pancake, but you're just letting it cook all the way through.
Man, I wish we had some photos. We'll have to do still shots from the video.
Yeah, maybe
That's the fun part about pancakes is watching them cook from the top down. When pancakes have the good, crispy exterior texture and then that soft, spongy texture in the middle, that's just so good. Then you put some butter on there. Oh, my God. No wonder Clemmy loves it.
I'm just going to make sure to lift these up a little bit so they don't burn.
And the beautiful thing is we get to eat these with your maple syrup.
Yeah. So that Dr. Dab's Taylor's Falls maple syrup.
Taylor's Falls is a beautiful place, too. I was just over there like a week ago.
Up at Interstate?
Yeah, by the glacial potholes.
Yeah, super pretty.
Man, it's beautiful.
I got I guess one sin to confess to you. I've never been to the potholes.
Oh, wow.
I've owned property in Taylor's Falls for like a decade and never been to the pothole.
You should check it out one time. Just spend
I hear it's like super pretty up there.
an hour or two there, especially if nobody's there. I mean, it's going to get busy in the summer.
I'll give up one of my mushroom honey holes. We're talking about Interstate, but Interstate's a great place to go mushroom hunting. If you want to find chanterelles and hedgehogs, as well as like a late summer mushroom and maitake.
Ooh.
If you start looking for the white oak and bur oak up there, you'll find if you get a nice good haul up there.
Nice.
So I'd park up by the bike path. So the interstate is actually split by Highway 8. Like everybody goes down where the potholes are, but there's also another part of interstate that's on the other side of the highway. And if you park by City Hall and then hike into the woods in there, you can get a nice good haul of some mushrooms.
Foraging field trips.
Yep. So yeah, we're getting pretty close to done. We can see our bubbles are starting to pop. We still got some bubbles still popping here, so we're gonna wait to make sure that they get cooked all the way through. And then add some of this Dr. Dab's maple syrup.
So you don't flip it over.
You don't flip them.
Wow. I actually love the flipping part of pancakes.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah, but this is intriguing. It looks so good though. Damn, I'm probably going to bed early tonight.
Right?
After this long day is done. At 11. This is like a marathon day for me. I have a lot of those. But they're all good things. All things I want to do, mostly.
But yeah, you can see on the top of them all these tiny little bubbles. So you'll see that, when we add the maple syrup into them, that's all those little holes.
Man.
Soak up all that syrup. And then every time you bite into it, it's almost like an explosion of maple syrup in your mouth.
Damn.
Because I think traditional pancakes, like when you add the maple syrup onto there, they I think they kind of blend together. Whereas I think the one benefit of these Bagrier pancakes is that, like, I think you have like this separation of like the pancake flavor from the maple syrup, because you get that maple explosion like right away, and then you get that nice pancakey goodness at the end.
Nice pancakey goodness.
I think, pancakes are a quintessential, I think staple Minnesota weekend food.
Yeah. I mean, it's so satisfying.
So I'd say this one is definitely looking done here. So yeah, I'll give you one.
Wow.
I might take this big one right here. So now let's keep up our heat.
Bagrier, Is it Begrier?
Yeah, Begrier.
Begrier.
So Begrir.
What kind of word is that? Do you know? Or name? Begrier.
It's either Moroccan. What do Moroccans speak? Is it Arabic?
I mean, they probably
Some of them speak
multiple
French
languages
now because of colonialism.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, I mean, it's North Africa, so it's probably a lot of diversity there. Yes, I love cakes. Shannon would say, what kind? Oh, shit. Yeah. Ooh-wee. I'm going to eat with my hands because I don't have a fork. I actually prefer eating with my hands, though. There's something sacred about eating with your hands. Wow. Thank you. Jeez Louise. Can I use this one too?
Yeah. It's really loaded up.
Oh, man. I must sleep good tonight. Please join us, Tanner.
I was watching you make this, and I was like, all right, I got to come give this a try.
Right. Don't miss this. Don't miss out on this. You're right here. Too close. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
Marcus, you finally announcing that you're starting a music career?
No.
I'd buy your album.
That would fail miserably. Can't afford to lose.
Wow. That's really good.
Thank you.
Oh, here, I'll make sure that the camera can see it properly.
The bubbles do serve as a vessel to hold it. I love that. Yeah, I'm just going to eat this barehanded.
I know, I'm feeling the same way.
Fuck it. It's more fun that way. Thank you very much for blessing the Dabbler Depot Studios, Minnesota Cannabis College, the Minnesota Cannabis culture.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. I think this is a cool opportunity to, maybe share some recipes that we use at the Doc Dab's residence, as well as, give us an opportunity to showcase our products.
Forest to table. Food forest to table.
Food forest to table, yeah. So the maple syrup comes straight from Taylor's Falls. We grow hemp in Scandia. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty nice local product.
And I know next time I'm planning a wake and bake, like, what a better way to start it than with this? Like, this is awesome.
I mean, how could you ever want to eat pancakes again without THC syrup?
No better way to start your day. So thanks again for joining us at the Cooking for Clem on the Northern Lights podcast. We'll check in with the next episode. I think we're going to be doing it's going to be a jerk vegetable saute.
Oh my God.
Stay tuned to catch the next episode.
Cookbook.
Well, that's all we got for today. Shout out to Clem. Thanks so much for coming in, showing us how to do all that cooking. Shout out to Jeremy. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing a story. And shout out to you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it.
We're nothing without the audience.
Nothing without you guys.
And you.
Thank you for growing with us.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be back in your feeds next week. We've got a super great interview with Colin Kelly. Really excited to be able to share that out, have him share a little bit more about what he's doing in Minnesota, but also nationally. There's a lot of cool stuff in cannabis going on, especially from some people based out of Minnesota.
I mean, great interview if you're curious about the last 10 years of medical cannabis in Minnesota. Colin has a really unique lens into the history.
Yeah, I got to just sort of geek out and just be like, so tell me more. What was it like? And so, oh, man, that was great. Then as a reminder, we also got a bonus episode coming out on Saturday, 4/20. It's a special holiday. Check out our episode. You can watch us get very stoned.
Barbecued.
Yeah, it's a good time. But in the meantime, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find us everywhere. Go and follow us. Go and share us with your friends. Go and let some people know about some of the cool stuff that we're doing, especially Northern Lights Podcast.
And if you're listening on Monday, you can find us at the Wilderness at about 6:30 in Uptown.
Yeah, come on down. We got a class tonight. So if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, just come on down.
What's that class called?
Drying and curing. Is it like a 201 level class?
Yeah, so it's looking at curing on that commercial scale with our friends at Bovida and Matt Robidoux. Really excited for that one.
Thanks, Matt.
I think even if people don't have an interest in, being a cultivator, that it would help them to be a more informed consumer.
That's right. And actually, Dabbler Depot's taking over the speakeasy. So,
Ooh, shout out to Dabbler Depot.
yeah, shout out to them.
That's going to be a fun one. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to drop us a like, share it with a friend, and see y'all again very soon.
Peace.
Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by my co-hosts John Barty and Marcus Harkis. Production assistance from Shayna Payton and Steve Eigenman. Today's episode is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. The information provided in this podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. Information shared may not constitute the most up-to-date or legal information. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking their own legal counsel. The opinions and views expressed on this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.
Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Marcus. Hey there, guys.
Hey, Tanner,
Hi.
great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Nice to see Marcus as well. Marcus, how was the eclipse?
It was, hopefully I have the right mic.
Yeah, we'll give you.
Cut.
We'll just run that back. We'll run that back. No, you're all good.
And we're back.